Okay, hi there. Well, this is not our usual setting at all. Um, so I promised you guys to do a live session, but um, things didn't work out this week. I starting Wednesday, I got something, a flu or something. So I was dead, basically dead. Still am kind of a little dead. So this is not going to be at all like anything we normally do. Um, so greetings. Uh, I don't have much of a voice, and I'm using the headset so that you can get something with voice. So I don't have to talk that loud. Um, and I'm using my tablet and not a computer because I'm not at the usual location. I'm in I'm at home. I've been in bed for the past couple of days because I've been ill. So, what did I got? I got some bug. This is one of the what do you call the prices teachers pay. We catch our students' bugs. Lately, for the past 2 or 3 weeks, at least a third to a half of my class has been out sick with something. So, of course, something is going to get. So it's like, ugh. In fact, it's been a big problem because I was actually planning something. Um, hi, hi there. Thanks. Um, I was, I had work to do this week. I had lots of work. Um, I needed to. I was supposed to go to a meeting on Wednesday that was canceled. That became Thursday meeting online. Um, I have to edit a paper that I got something kind of accepted. I have to make some revisions and I have to change the referencing to it. That will take maybe that take a week, 2 weeks, and I was planning to start doing that this week. And also I was planning on doing something regarding. Okay, I was planning to make my recordings for the last week of the Schmidt stuff. I everything. Basically, I was going to do it last week. Uh, um, last week, and uh, it was a disaster in the sense that I had to go to a conference that I didn't plan on going to, and it was for social reasons. Networking and things like that, meeting people. So at the Polish political science, Polish Catholics groups had religion and politics, and I needed to network with some people because I maybe be looking for it, having to switch schools in that sense. I don't plan on doing that, but I might have to. So therefore, instead of doing what I planned last week, which was finish the Schmidt, I plan to do the Schmidt this week, record. But Tuesday night and Wednesday morning, I was sick as a dog. In fact, and it just felt like a head cold, but it's something else. You get yucky. So rest. The doc said stay in bed, rest. I don't have to teach. I don't teach Monday, Tuesdays this semester. I teach on America Online, thank God. I just, took my computer out and did the class and respond to the question. But I was basically space cadet, man, space cadet. My head is like clogged. You can probably hear it. And, I'm recording from my apartment at home, our small apartment. And my wife is sick too, so I'm interrupting her television time. And she's kind of pissed at me in that sense. I don't blame her because I usually do my stuff in the office, but I just don't want to go outside today, and it's been horrible in that sense. So I'm probably not going to have any videos next week. No. The only thing that will rescue it is if by Sunday I'm strong enough. If Sunday I'm strong enough to go to the office and make 1 or 2 videos, maybe have Monday and Tuesday done, and then record on Wednesday. Record the videos for the last 2 videos up. I'm hoping I can do that. Otherwise, there'll be no Monday, Tuesday video. So it's a bitch. Life's a bitch, right? This is the sickness. Wish I had more schedule time. So again, I apologize. I promised the live stream. I'm giving you the live stream. It's in lieu of a normal monthly live stream. Maybe I'll make the next week. Next Friday I'll do the normal live stream, monthly live stream. More healthy. Like I said, I have my Aristotle paper on change. I have to rework on it. I have to basically just respond to some criticisms and tweak it a little bit like this, and change the referencing notes. That's going to be the big bitch. That might take 2 weeks. The editor is also an editor of another journal. He invited, but the good thing about this is that he said, the editor was kind of positive in that sense. He said, "Don't worry about the criticisms." It was kind of very dismissive to one of the reviewers, which has never happened. When I said to him that, listen, if I do everything that one reviewer wanted me to do, it's going to take more than a month, maybe 2 months. And he said, let's not overestimate the wisdom of reviewers. This is like the best editorial comment ever. And anyone, a scholar who's, because usually the thing is that you get the nature of peer review today is that the nature of peer review is that the subtlest criticism is a reason for editors to reject it. So I think the editor must have liked it enough and didn't think the reviewer's comment was that relevant. But there was some relevance, and I think some of it wasn't relevant, but some comments I will have to adjust. So I mean, I'm not that arrogant in that sense, but that's the kind of thrust of that. We had some more people saying, "Oh, you didn't talk about anything today." So that's work. Schmidt, I'm going to say this. I'm apologizing right now for this coming week. I hope by Sunday I will be strong enough to go to my office and make 2 recordings for Monday, Tuesday, finish up the Schmidt stuff. But I'm scared about this because the code, and I can't afford to be. Another thing is I have school bullshit. Real big bad bullshit. I have the due date is the 11th, and all my students' topic has to be submitted. All my BA students writing their thesis have to submit their thesis topics for approval by the committee. And I had this student. Imagine this: having a student come into your semester, just a week before the deadline is coming in. It never was on there. New student added. Like, oh my God, what the F, what WTF, right? It's like they're trying to sabotage me in that sense. So therefore, that is the crux of that. So Sunday, I need to do some things. I have to really go through the things the students sent me and then post them, put them up there. And then Monday at school, I hope I'm well enough to go to school Monday. It just has to be done. So that's the reason why it's being sick is in being here is this way. So, okay, what is the topic for today? I'm going to try to talk about. Well, I mean, I'm going to suggest, and those of you who follow, the YouTube communitariat. There was a guy on YouTube often corresponding with academic agent Mr. Parvini called the Distributist. Right? He was very, I don't really know his name. He's now been lately interviewing and showing his face, which is interesting in that sense. Okay, great. He's going from just being an avatar to actually showing his face and hosting things. I mean, he's kind of a Chestertonian. It's just the concept of the distributionist. Distributionist is a basically it's something, an idea, political economy concept came up by the English Catholic thinker Howe in the end of the 19th century, early 20th century. It's kind of a social, it's kind of the social, it's a Catholic social teaching view of economics, agreeing with Leo XIII's famous encyclical on social justice. I forget the name of the book, the encyclical on on economy. And it was championed by people like Chesterton and Talek as kind of a humane kind of political economy. Well, a friend of mine told me that this Catholic University Press, it's a major academic press, put a book out, wrote about the distributionism, the political economy of distributionism, property, liberty, and the common good, by Alexander Walter Salter. Now, who is Salter? I'm going to have to look at this because I have no light here. So, yeah, he is the George Snyder Associate Professor of Economics at Rawls College of Business at Texas Tech University, and Comparative Economics Research Fellow at the Texas Tech University's Free Market Institutes, and he is the Associate Editor of the Journal of Private Enterprise. So he's an Associate Professor of Economics teaching at an American university. So I doubt he's I doubt he's the internet personality distributionist. And I was, anyone who is interested in this is, and it's published by Catholic University Press, a major academic press. And I was interested in it because I've been very much interested in kind of what we call the debate about free markets or the attack. There's been, ever since the NatCons, the NatCons, and people if they're not even NatCons, but even someone like Papin and the guys, Papin and at American Affairs, which emerged right after 2016, out of the Journal of American Greatness, the people who were behind with Acton, Michael. Okay, I say he's not Acton, Michael. Oh my God, my brain is frying. The drugs is really hard. The cold medications. So, what is so interesting about this? There was kind of a, following the kind of attack on liberalism that people like Alistair McIntyre constantly does, and some of the people like on post-liberal, particularly Deneen, Patrick Deneen, his book on liberalism and now regime change. There is a kind of an attack on Lockean liberalism, and by attacking Lockean liberalism, you attack the individualistic anthropology that is at the root of it, and that is actually important in that sense. And the distributionists are, they're Catholic thinkers. Hillel Balak and those guys wanted to have an alternative to the individualism, but they wanted at the same time have a defense of private property. And the private property, in other words, they said, listen, we can. Typically the critique. In fact, this is my problem of someone like Alistair McIntyre. McIntyre was originally a Marxist. Okay, he was a hardcore Marxist. He despised English liberal Anglo-Saxon capitalism in that sense. And what happened was, as Marxism became less and less respectable in the 1970s, he turned to he discovered that the ancients had the ancients and ancient philosophy had a aristocratic critique of commerce and trade, which is the classic. If you look at the ancients had contempt for trade. That the only people who engaged in commerce were mostly slaves. Okay, that freemen, it wasn't proper for a freedman to be a businessman or a manual laborer either. Neither neither a laborer or a man of commerce. B, that you were supposed to be a gentleman, a landlord, and basically that was okay. I can't respect anyone who doesn't respect the portion of property. I needed Parvini's main partner is that Sargon of Sargon, yeah, but Sargon used to do it but that was just a long time ago. Sargon and Parvini really don't hang out anymore in that sense. The ancient Greeks made their wives handle those affairs, correct. Sorry, we had an interruption for some reason. YouTube crashed. I got back on immediately, and thank God I was able to do this. I hope it's not going to be a big problem. Because I'm using my tablet, and that's the big problem. The distributists and these guys, the big problem was with them is that they don't. That kind of is a consistency. What is it? And I think this is interesting in that sense. But at the same time, I think their religiosity is a problem in that sense. They make there is that problem and what to do with it. And this is why, hangs out with Mr. D, who is in some sort of wealthy, hold on a minute. Who is some sort of wealthy fine artist. Oh. Well, I don't know who AA hangs out with. It's kind of a strange world. AA is going darker in many ways. It's got more radical, got more pessimistic. I think the distributionist was never pessimistic in that sense. The distributists in those crowd, and I'm not going to say this is the distributist. I'm saying this is. If you're interested in a book that explains distributism and understand what distributists are doing, this is kind of the book you should look to. The other one is William Ropke's book, the famous, early part of the 20th century to 1960s, 1970s, William Ropke, The Humane Economy. He was one of these German economists that argued for the restoration of liberal capitalism. He was a Swiss German who though Austrian and okay, yeah, I said AA is a difficult person to hang out with and that stuff. There is kind of a need to kind of get to understand what they say. Hearing YouTube videos is not enough. You have to go look at some material, and sometimes the quality of the stuff is kind of in self-publishing needs editing half the time. William Ropke's Humane Economy is a very excellent starting point to kind of look at this kind of from a it was kind of, he was a contemporary of Hayek, okay? Ropke and those guys were contemporary of Hayek's. And one that stayed in Switzerland and kind of attack the German nationalists, in centralism and planning economy models of this, and attack centralized planning. And the problem is, why I think in many ways this debate is returning. Because those of us who are criticizing, starting with the American journal, American Affairs, during the Trump years, the idea of returning to some kind of, the argument that the free trade cult people, the free traders, were arguing against Trump and his, defense, need to, listen, America has a problem right now, and that problem is, I'm going to say has many problems. One of the problems is that it can't fix its navy anymore. It has a big navy, and it doesn't have the industrial capacity to refit or maintain its large navy. and often what happened, because that was during the 1990s and starting in the 80s and through the 90s and through the thousands, American naval industrial infrastructure was transferred to the third world as shipbuilding, mostly commercial shipbuilding, went off to the third world. And people misunderstand, this idea that free trade agreements and trade agreements prohibit government subsidization of commercial industry. And, this, free trade should be not, but I'm sorry, people don't misunderstand that what makes a country able to have a large military, a global military, is that it has the infrastructure, the industrial infrastructure to support it. And what free trade did was it transferred that. And it also transferred the middle class as well by doing this. The working class, it basically depopulated the kind of jobs that would allow working class, the upper level working class, to become part of the middle class. And therefore, the free culture, Trump's idea that we're going to rebuild the military and we're going to be able to maintain American greatness and we're going to act against China and not letting them make the trade deals that hurt American industries and American jobs. This becomes the debate, and that therefore the argument is, in fact, this is some of the arguments that we see even today in journals like Law and Liberty and places like that, where if you notice that the whole thing is that it is basically stuck on a issue that, my God, it's either free trade or central planning, and I think this is a problem here because this is a false dichotomy. This is the classic false dichotomy. This is like the essays by Samuel Gregg lately on Law and Liberty. Oh, you have to have it. Free trade will only help our national defense. Nonsense. This is simply just nonsense. The experience of the fact that, I'm sorry, Mr. Gregg, the empirical fact that right now the U.S. Navy has a 21-month delay, up to 21-month delay on refitting major warships. In fact, we can't. Half our carrier force is at port waiting for refit and remodeling. We can't deploy our full naval carrier force because half the ships have to be maintained and upthing. There's not enough. We don't have the civilian capacity in order to do refits in time because the existing naval capacity is limited in that sense. And there would be no need to rely on government's created services because you could hire it out to the third. The argument is, you could use the third world, but do you really want Chinese-run Asian shipbuilders to have access to American carriers and American conventional warships to be able to get access to the technologies? This is the idea that we should be letting countries like India and China have access to these ships is just completely absurd in that sense. And people like Gregg should be Samuel Gregg and these guys who make this argument. It's either or. It's going to be centralized planning or absolute free trade. No, there is compromise here. And what I see in the people like the so-called distributionist kind of argument is a defense of private property. It's a defense of property. It's a defense of ownership, and it's defensive. And I think this is the thing, and that political liberty is not. This is the problem with the libertarian argument, is that it only sees the individual and it sees no social obligation to the other. Okay, and therefore any constraint, any involuntary constraint is, oh my God, is bad, and that's not true. Liberty is not the complete absence of restraint. And this is something, if you read, Montesquieu's Spirit of the Laws, he makes clear in the book 11, where he deals with the question of liberty as the end, What is the end of liberty? What does liberty mean in the political constructs? So that's the one thing that was planning. And the second thing I was, so therefore distributionist in that sense. In lieu of also rereading Parvini's AA's recent book on the prophets of doom and the idea of cyclical history, it finally came. Neil Howe, the other half, the surviving half of Strauss Howe, the cycle theory of these classes of people, Generation X, William Strauss, in their famous book Generations, and then their last book together, I think it was, a couple books, they had a lot of books together. That Fourth Turning, that was the book that everyone kind of, even like Steve Bannon and many people in the right turn to, say, this is the book about the fourth turning is here. This is his latest book in that sense, and it's ironically it's a New York Times bestseller. And I finally got my copy. It was just released, in that it came to the European publishing thing. In fact, we have to remember Fourth Turning was published in 1997, and Millennium Rising 2000. So Strauss-Howe Generations was 1991. So Strauss-Howe Generations, when they came up with the generation, we talk about boomers, we talk about Xers, right? Millennials. Well, a lot of this was, boomers got a baby boom, World War II baby boom, but it was Strauss-Howe took these terms and kind of developed them into a cycle of classes. Now, I've always argued the problem with Strauss-Howe is when you try to globalize it, because you have to understand generations and generational cycles. In many ways, Strauss-Howe's book is like astrology. This is why my historian friends, real serious historian friends who talk about, Spengler and Tomby and things, people who talk about cyclic history, are kind of dismissive of this. There is kind of, it's a nice, and even someone like Peter Turchin is dismissive. Turchin doesn't really believe, he's a cycle theory also. But Strauss-Howe's popularity was that it did explain the American global aspect of it. And say I'm being a little hard by calling it astrology. Well, yes, it's opaque, but there's a problem, and that problem is generational development is tied to specific populations. Okay. So the baby boomers of America are not the baby boomers of Germany. Okay. Now we could argue the creation of global media and global culture creates a global elite. In other words, does the global culture of the post-1990 internet world establishes kind of a pseudo-global culture? And that therefore we can create a global things, because I think it's to apply the fourth turning in terms of an American problem is the only way we should understand it. It's not a thing, and I think Generation X makes no sense in the European context. Okay, things like Generation X or any other things. Popular generations and generations are always products of their local historical environment in that sense. They're not, and maybe I'm too much of a good biologist to talk about the abstract in this sense. And while I think there's some truth to what Strauss-Howe says about the American context, but when you try to apply this on yeah, exactly. I mean, Cortez says French baby boomers are not like our baby boomers. Exactly. I would argue French baby boomers were worse. They were more revolutionary in political views. Exactly. American baby boomers were kind of reactionary, but not revolutionary, but at the same time selfish. Whereas the French baby boomers, and actually, you have to remember, 68. It was 68. The baby boomer backlash in late 60s and early 70s was about Vietnam, For the European, the Western European, it was kind of a reaction to their parents' fascism or complicity with fascism. Okay, and therefore there is a fundamental difference in generational conceptions. And when you try to globalize them or merge it, it kind of it gives a different picture. And I think there is I think there's different I think there are going to be generational problems. But I don't think it can be globalized to this thing. So this is why I'm looking at this. Um, uh, I don't really. I'm looking at this. I think there is an American crisis. It is an American crisis. It's a identity crisis. I think it's going to be big. It's going to be problematic. I think the forthcoming election, is going to be very shocking and tragic. And I think many ways, if there will be a civil war, it will. I mean, jokingly, our friend Trump will be the Abraham Lincoln. If Trump gets elected, the Trump, in 2016 when he won, the left had a conniption fit. The frenzy and madness that was released. Now, if he wins now, it will be even magnified 10 times worse. It will be. Will it be the same as what happened when Abraham Lincoln won in 1860? Will they open? And it will be fun to use the insurrectionist charge against them. Everything they've done after January 6th, about the January 6th bullshit, turning into a minor thing into a thing like this. They set a precedent. Okay, so if that's the case, if it happens, that's the problem about this. That Trump was too nice the first time, and maybe he shouldn't have been nice. He should. And now the problem is, oh my God, they're afraid he's going to retaliate, right? And that's why. But I don't think Trump is a nasty person. I don't think he will retaliate. He's too. I mean, at the end of the day, Trump is too nice. They deserve somebody far worse. But that's neither here nor there. Back to the fourth turning and why fourth turning would be interesting, because I think this is Howe's attempt to kind of, it's saying I was right, guys, I was right, and that is kind of a thing. And last but not least, for the Europeans out there, like my friend when I was Thursday. At the conference I was at last week, the Catholic conference. My friend gave a paper about the EU, and he was reading this book, Counter-Revolution, The Liberal Europe in Retreat, by Zielonka. Now, he's a Polish professor who was at Oxford for a long time. He's a professor of European politics at the Oxford University. And the Ralph DeFondon professor at St. Andrews College, and he's currently at Worcester University. He's my colleague, my friend, said he's there and they talk all the time. My friend's very conservative. He even works. He's a civil servant at the Polish government, and he's been very active on things like the EU and the UN and things like this. And he's kind of more right, in many ways, more right-wing than me. In other ways, we differ in that sense. Well, what this book is a kind of a candy open. I mean, this is a liberal crying about the reaction. So it's an interesting book. The Counter-Revolution is a bold attempt to make sense of what's going on in Europe, about the rise of populism, and the failure of the neoliberal European project to convince Europeans in that sense. And I think this is an interesting book, because this is a book written by a liberal, but it's not hysterical. Okay. I mean, it's not like an Anne Applebaum book. Anne Applebaum, oh my God, Trump, fascist everywhere, fascist everywhere. No, this is a much more reasonable book on the subject in that sense, even though it's a liberal complaining that, we have to sit the EU project. and what's worthy saving of it. And again, I think that's I haven't read it yet. I know my friend told me about it, and he said it was a good book. And I just kind of looked. I've been sick. I mean, it came this week. It came this week. I ordered it right after him seeing it on Friday, no, Thursday, and it arrived like on Tuesday, and then next thing I know, Wednesday, I'm dead. So I haven't read anything in that sense. So I apologize. Well, I've kept my promise to some degree. He says, "Have you come around to Cousins?" No, I've read. Bronze Age Pervert. I problem with. I can't. I read Bronze Age Mindset. It's hard to read. I got the ebook, and it's just badly edited. It's hard to read. As someone who is dyslexic and writing problems, I understand what his appeal is. It's kind of like this. His dissertation, the edition of his dissertation is a very good. It's an outstanding piece of work. It is a tragedy he didn't get a teaching job at his school. No, it's badly edited in the sense that Selective Breeding is a very good book. It's and the problem with editing is that I'm sorry, I'm a lousy editor. I wouldn't want to publish my own stuff in that sense. I needed someone to kind of go over things because I can make mistakes. Everyone does this, and this is one of the risks of self-publishing. And I understand that people don't care, and I liked it because they liked the message of Bronze Age Pervert. But it needed editing. It needed someone to say, wait a minute, can you be more clear here? There's contradictions here. Don't you see the contradiction in some of these claims you're making here? And there is kind of maybe I'm just too old. Okay, I'm about to turn 60 soon. Not this year, but soon. And I don't get the same lust of the fetishness of the body. There is this fetishness in his shows and among his fans. There is a fetishness of the body that I just don't find it interesting. It's kind of as banal as the banality of that he criticizes. To what degree is I think the weightlifting and the cult of that is. I wonder if it's kind of an esoteric joke. Is he mocking them? Is Bronze Age Pervert really, by glorifying it, is that the exoteric mechanism that he uses to kind of reach out to these people and try to engage? I don't know about that. It isn't the serious. Well, but his people are the people who go to. All the hardcore bappers are, okay, and people influenced by it tend to be. They also tend to be heavily into Nietzsche. I actually have, you can only take small Nietzsche. I like Nietzsche too, but in small doses. Too much doses can be dangerous for you. Nietzsche in too levels of dose, and only Nietzsche is bad for the soul, bad for the mind. Life is not that dark in that sense. Translating Pierre Michel's book. Hold on, I'm trying to get there because I'm not having the Revolution of the Body in Totalitarian Europe from 1941 it is serious and quite dark due to Nietzsche. Of course, all the people who do the body stuff. This is the problem of the body fetish and postmodernism. This is the whole. My problem with the body, the whole idea of the body and the way the body is dealing with it, it is a reaction to the Holocaust. It is the dead bodies of that they, them seeing the bodies in that sense. This is a kind of a fundamental question at postmodernism, the Auschwitz and the camps, and the shock of this is what liberalism and capitalism and the modern technological world leads to. World War One too, but World War One was World War Two in steroids. Well, Cortlitz, congratulations. I hope Imperialism does publish it. It would be worth seeing online or available. Maybe a good book about the body might get us off Foucault, get people to, something alternative to Deleuze and Foucault crap. And also, what's her name? Judith Butler's body, which again is Deleuzian in that sense. This is my problem with the body stuff. Is you get, I was very much a champion of Kantorovic's, Ernst Kantorovic's, his book on the body politic, the king's two bodies, right? This political theology of the king's two bodies. And the problem with it is that the metaphor of the body politic was a very important one for the Middle Ages, and that the modern world's it embraced the concept of sovereignty in that sense, right? That's that theory. And what happened was the postmoderns hijacked it, and they hijacked even poor Carl Schmitt too on this. So this is a big problem in that sense. And therefore this was kind of an interesting aspect of it, but again, I got derailed. The cold meds, my head's the fog. My head's the fog. Well, that's kind of the basic thrust. Again, I'm going to apologize to everyone about the Schmitt videos. I'm going to hope to get them work if I'm feeling stronger and off the cold medicine, that I can concentrate on something for more than 10, 20 minutes. I hope to do something on Sunday. I'm hoping. I need to go do work on Sunday because of a lot of things. And that should be the explanation of things in that sense. Anthropology is kind of interesting to me right now because I was requested to do something on a journal. The editor from the journal, who's also an editor of another journal, invited me for the 2025 issue to submit for the 225 issue of the journal, the special issue on political anthropology, on Aristotle and political anthropology. So I've been kind of invited to do an article, which is it's a big thing. So I'm kind of happy about that, and I probably will write it, talking about the body and that stuff. Irving, I don't want to get into Irving. David Irving is a freak, in the sense that he's just. It's kind of. It's just bad scholarship. It's kind of sloppy scholarship. It's bad historiography. There's no proof of Hitler not signing anything. Well, of course, that's the whole nature of this regime in that sense. So it was kind of, the way he governed was never signing anything. But it's clear from Mein Kampf what he wanted to do. And it's clear from his speeches and things and his table talk what he wanted to do. That say there's no evidence of the Holocaust because there's no orders from Hitler is just silly scholarship. And therefore, that's kind of what's the problem with people like Irving. And we have to understand that Irving, you know, and the likes of Irving discredits a lot of legitimate alternative history people on the alternative right. And the anti-Semitism of some of the alternative right. Okay, I understand. There's legitimate reasons to have a you know, the Jewish question. Um, not because Jews per se, but because of the fact that very radical, a lot of them are tied to the radical leftist constructions that attack the basis of society. Now, is it because of their Jewishness? No, it's just because they're fucked up individuals. They're actually most of the time, most of these leftist Jews are self-hating Jews. They're Jews who despise their own Jewishness. And therefore, you know, of course, it's a good sign. People who hate themselves and hate who they come from are usually going to be people who are dangerous in that sense. We see these I meet self-loathing Poles all the time, and they're the first people who advance radical ideologies, globalism. You know, anyone who advances a globalism wants to be a part of another global elite is usually because they hate who they come from in that sense. There is this hatred of where they are and where they're from, and they want to be somebody else. And usually they're the most progressive and radical people in that sense. So of course, you know, is it therefore part of some kind of conspiracy? No, no. Jewish conspiracy? No, no. That you know, this is. You can have criticisms of certain groups and their influence in society or their over prominence in certain aspects. But does it say does it say it's a conspiracy? No, no, it's not. You know, to say that I can Keon West is not is not completely wrong when he talks about the roles of Jews in the entertainment media, particularly in music and that. He's not totally wrong, but he goes too far. And I want to end today's thing on this question because I had a good friend. I had a Korean guy. I knew back in '90s from that church I was at. His father was a minister. He was a Korean Presbyterian minister. And I knew Hiram, you know, this guy. He was a very smart guy. He got his PhD at Penn. PhD. He got his bachelor's and master's degree at Penn, and he was basically studying Jewish culture, Jewish studies. He wanted to study Hebrew. He was interested in the Hebrew Bible, and he got into the doctoral program at Brown. And but the problem was Jewish studies is not religious, and what happened was because he was a Korean guy who was a Christian. Who did missionary work, and he did missionary work in the Palestine areas. You know, he was very active doing Christian work in Israel and helping with the Arab Christians. And he pointed out to the discrimination. Again, this is because he himself was, you know, Korean, and you have to understand some aspects in Western California and places like that. Koreans are, they are in the ghetto in that sense. So when they turned on him suspiciously, why they were suspicious of him being there. Well, and they became, and what happened was they persecuted him in that sense. I remember they drove him out of the Jewish studies people drove him out of the PhD program. He got accepted at Cambridge, but then what happened? He became I mean, Fuentes, Fuentes, the YouTube guy. I hate to say it, once you've been targeted by Jewish activists and did something like this, you see the way they defend themselves and they act against you. You think you're being conspired against. Okay, this is the natural nature of a situation if someone does it. And it's the danger was when people go after you, when you're being persecuted by a group on because because you're interested in and you're trying to do the thing that you're interested in the subject, but because you're not part of the group, you can't do it, or they're suspicious of you. This is a this is a this is a problem in that sense. This creates you get a sense of persecution, and you develop this. And I think explains Fuentes. My experience with my Korean friend of how this he took it who over time with from his his experiences at Brown at the Jewish Studies program at Brown to what happened eventually at places like it only encouraged his anti-Semitism. It made it stronger in that sense. It became justified. It became justified in their mind in that sense. And that is why I think it's important to understand. And this is why I've always been sympathetic to Fuentes. I always thought Fuentes is not a Nazi. He's just a paleoconservative who, being like Pat Buchanan is this old Catholic and explains these things in light of the old traditional Catholic position of this. He is not a white supremacist in this. Could you imagine a white supremacist cooperating with Kanye West? Fuentes is one of these extreme Catholics in that sense. So I think this is the problem here. Can you have criticisms of Israel and not be an anti-Semite? Yes, but if you hold Israel to a completely different standard and they can do nothing right, then that borders on anti-Semitism. I think what happens is that you became a pariah. Fuentes became a pariah in that sense. I sympathize with him in that sense. I think, but then what happens is being the pariah, you go too far. What happens is once you see the persecution and doing like this, and this is my same problem with people like the Gab guys at Gab, the guy who owns Gab. I'm still a member of Gab. I do it, but I think the problem with Gab sometimes is, Normal Finkelstein is exactly. He's the worst. He's a Jew who hates Jews in that sense. He propagates the anti-Jewish identity in that sense. But Gab, if you know about Gab, and I get the, there is a kind of a reaction. I get this, some of my Christian nationalist friends who get mad at me for being an Old Testament Christian, I sense. I joke as a child. I hated when I grew up in the 70s, I remember the hippies took over the church and the Way Bible. I despised I hated hippie Jesus. I became a diehard Old Testament Christian in that sense. I re-embraced my Puritan identity, and I liked the Old Testament God. I didn't like this hippie Jesus of the Way Bible. I despised the Way Bible, and I kind of boycotted church as a teenager because of the hippie Jesus and the cult of that took over my childhood church. And it became a cult of Pentecostal radical hippies. They divorced their wives, and the minister divorced. This is a classic case of the minister shacking up with the choir director, and they did it for the cause of holiness. Okay, if that doesn't cure you from the Pentecostal crackpots, and it wasn't a Pentecostal church, it was a mainline Baptist church that was taken over by the hippies and the left and the boomer left and the boomer crazies. So I understand that. And to understand the old American tradition is shaped by the two aspects of Judaism and Romanism, right? So therefore, this is why it's a kind of the American identity is much shaped by Jewish identity. as it is shaped by because the Puritans. The Puritans are both Romans and Greeks, and then at one sense, but also Jews. And they understood themselves as Jewish in that sense. That they are the children of Israel. If you understand the Puritans and how they understood the Bible and understood this, they would read the future by looking at the past, right? They look the way the Bible was interpreted. You understand that we are living in the between time between the gospel and the apostles and the book of Revelation, and that the Old Testament and the New Testament are mirrors to each other, and this is how you used to read them in that sense. I'm at my time. I said I'd do a talk today. I'm glad there's at least 5 people that was around here today, and 5 people now watching. I'm at the hour, near the hour mark. So guys, please tell me. It was nice having you guys chat on the chat, and I'm glad. I hope Corbett does get published, and if he doesn't mind, I wish him luck on the book he just translated and getting it published at Imperium. It's fun to see these kind of things happen right on my chat. Yeah, right. Next week, I'm going to hopefully I might talk about something better next week and have some better things to say. I'm hoping to God that I'm getting strong enough that I can finish Schmidt. But I'm going to warn you. We will probably have no content next week if I'm still not better by the weekend. So okay, take care. Have a good weekend, everyone. Please send me for topics that you guys want to do. That is always things I need in that sense. Maybe I can do things. The thing I'm going to be doing after Schmidt, I'm going to do Aristotle. I'm going to do my Nicomachean Ethics. I'm going to run through the ethics chapter by chapter by chapter. I think that should hold me off to the new year, probably to the spring. In my reading group, we're doing Plato's Laws until the spring too. So the reading group I'm in on Saturdays, we're doing Plato's Laws, 2 weeks a book. So it's been kind of very good and productive. Well, that's it. Take care. I wish you all well. My wife was kind of annoyed that she had to go out to the other room and not she was trying to sleep. So take care and have a good one. Bye bye. Oopsie, you have to go over here to turn it off. Dun, 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 dun.